Hello, dear friends, I am with you. Sofya Dorinskaya. I am a psychiatrist and head of the Sofya Dorinskaya Medical Information Center. Today I want to talk to you again about the reasons that cause psychosis in a person. And let's start with fairly simple things. When clients come to us, people who they want me to help them understand the causes of a particular condition, psychosis, or relatives come and tell the story of their loved ones. When I start by first asking what this person eats, and if I find that their nutrition is insufficient, I say that this is exactly the cause of the psychosis. You can sense a certain disappointment. Many individuals often tend to mistakenly believe that there must be some incredibly unusual, highly specific, and extremely difficult to figure out underlying cause for the onset of psychosis in their lives, as if it were a deep mystery that requires an expert to solve. And there is this distinct, palpable sense that the person is feeling very disappointed when I first start talking with them. First of all, we begin discussing specific things like exactly what you eat, precisely when you eat, how often you eat throughout the day, and so on. In order to really demonstrate to you the importance, first and foremost, of the first question, which is the question of nutrition, today I want to give you several examples, real examples of people, how they eat and what this leads to. So a 40-year-old woman, I'm reading this straight from the notes. In the morning, cottage cheese casserole, 100 grams, or oatmeal porridge cooked in water, 100 grams, plus black bread. Well, some piece of black bread. Lunch. A sandwich with boiled sausage or chicken broth soup, 100 grams, plus milk. 3.2% fat, 200 grams. Dinner, tea with cookies. So what does this woman take? In other words, this is her diet, right? And for many years, the woman has been taking various psychoactive substances. And now she is taking azaleptin and Risperdal. The next woman is 59 years old. I don't eat meat, I'm a vegetarian. I rarely eat fish, only in winter. I am an advocate of healthy eating. Yeast-free bread, porridge in the mornings, boiled buckwheat, stewed vegetables, eggs, sometimes without yolks. Borscht, food allergy to green juices, replaced sugar with honey, uses unrefined oils, portion size. Small, I just don't feel like eating more. Sometimes I want to eat, so I do. Mostly I eat twice a day. So what illnesses does this woman suffer from? Stage 3, dyscirculatory encephalopathy, a complicated course. Neurocirculatory dystonia of the hypotonic type. Atrophy of the frontal, temporal, and parietal cortex. Asthenic syndrome. Recurrent retinal detachment against the background of myopia. Complicated by epifibrosis, cataract. Surgery will be necessary. Fibrocystic mastopathy, osteochondrosis, deforming with protrusions and extrusions of the discs, accompanied by pain syndrome in the thoracic region. In the pelvis, there is pronounced dilation of the ovarian vein, a cyst on the right kidney, and no complaints regarding atherosclerosis of the cerebral vessels. You can see that, to be honest, the body is simply disappearing. Here, using these diagnoses as an example, I can say that the body, it simply devours itself. The woman doesn't eat meat, and the body happily devours itself, including the brain. Her blood vessels are deteriorating, and her internal organs are deteriorating as well. Well, okay. Next example. A man, 21 years old. Lacto-vegetarian diet. I eat both cooked and raw foods, about as much as fits in my cupped hands. The person is 21 years old. In the morning, cottage cheese or walnuts or an egg. During the day, usually boiled vegetables, legumes, a salad of raw vegetables, porridge, and milk. In the evening, an egg and kefir. He has been diagnosed with nervous anorexia. He is taking Venlaxor, as well as quetiapine, Sonopax, and fenazepam. So, my friends, I have often asked people why they eat this way. Why do they refuse to eat meat? Why do they restrict their diet so much? The first answer I usually get is that it's for health reasons. Here, for example, someone writes, "Moreover, this is a 59-year-old woman, a doctor, who writes that she is an advocate of healthy eating. So all the diets I just read to you, according to these people, are considered healthy eating." Now let me read you the diet of a concentration camp in Nazi Germany. They ate 3 times a day. The prisoners were fed. In the morning, half a liter of black coffee or an herbal tea, drink without sugar. The second meal was a portion of soup, 0.75 liters, 350 to 400 calories, watery, 4 times a week with a small amount of meat, 3 days with vegetables. So for 3 days they didn't eat meat. Dinner, 300 grams of bread, sometimes 25 grams of sausage or margarine, or a spoonful of jam or cheese. The caloric value of this diet is 900 to 1000 calories. After a few weeks, people felt terrible physical weakness, which ended in death. Tell me, please, how is this menu radically different from the other menu? Cottage cheese casserole, 100 grams of soup on chicken broth, and in the evening tea with cookies. When a person eats like this for years, a 40-year-old young woman, or take, for example, a 20-year-old man. In the morning, cottage cheese, walnuts, and egg. During the day, usually boiled vegetables. In the evening, an egg and kefir. Of course, in a concentration camp, even an egg would be considered a blessing, but just imagine, people eat like this for years. Do people actually achieve the goal they set for themselves with this so-called healthy eating? Let's take a look at what medications these people who follow such a diet are taking and what side effects those pills have. So a 40-year-old woman is taking azaleptin or clozapine. The side effects include fainting, seizures, agranulocytosis, periostitis, pyodermas, which are purulent skin inflammations, rispenept, risperidone, sleep disturbances, increased excitability, headaches, and tachycardia. Abdominal pain, constipation, amenorrhea, urinary incontinence. So that's the state of health for this person. Now, a man is taking quiteron, an atypical neuroleptic. The side effects are agitation, depression, anxiety, hostility, diabetes mellitus, hepatitis, edema, weight gain, and venlaxer. Hallucinations, seizures, ventricular fibrillation, hepatitis, erectile and ejaculatory dysfunction, vision impairment, blood count abnormalities, and impaired consciousness. So, doctor, she is 59 years old, and as I have already listed for you, she has this bouquet of illnesses as well as atrophy of the frontal cortex, temporal, and parietal regions. She has pronounced, well, she has varicose veins and disc protrusions with pain syndrome. My friends, here's what I wanted to tell you. In order to be healthy, to stay sane, to live to old age, essentially with a sound mind, you need to understand your own body. And first of all, the foundation, the basis of our body is the life activity of our cells. And these biological cells must, since you get up every single day and you live your life every day, the cells must receive their essential nourishment every single day. If you severely limit or restrict your daily nutritional intake in any way, you thereby inevitably begin to venture down a dangerous path toward various diseases, physical dystrophies, debilitating psychoses, and complex neuroses. Why exactly does it frequently appear this way to the individuals who live like this? With such a terrible diet, why does it seem to people that when they start experiencing depression, panic attacks, or some psychotic states, neuroleptics and antidepressants help them? Yes, it's very simple. A starving body, cells of a starving body experience pain. It's a terrible pain. Why? Because as I've already said, your body will take what it needs anyway. And if the body doesn't get enough nutrition, it starts to consume, roughly speaking, itself. And that is a very intense pain. And a person goes insane precisely because of this excruciating pain. When you start taking psychoactive substances, what do? They numb you, and the body stops feeling this pain. The pain hasn't gone anywhere. It's just that the effect of these special substances, which are designed to block nerve impulses along the nerve pathways, these substances naturally work, and the person stops feeling the pain. And he will continue to feel more or less okay, if you can put it that way, until the body runs out of all its resources. Several years may pass, maybe 9 years, it can happen, yes, with varying degrees of success, if the person somehow manages to nourish themselves. The so-called periods of binge eating, for which people punish and scold themselves and so on. It's just, well, sort of, biology breaks through and the body tries to feed itself during these brief periods when a person simply can no longer control their animal nature. If we can put it that way, yes, so this goes on, this phase, and it's more or less okay. This state lasts until the body finally falls apart. Because in addition to the body being exhausted by hunger, experiencing dystrophy of organs and tissues, and suffering constant pain, even if the person doesn't feel it, there are also side effects that come into play. Those are the toxic psychoactive substances, the substances that the person is taking. And here begins that truly rapid downward spiral when the person simply collapses. And very often people tell me, how can that be? I lived like this for 5, 6, even 9 years. Everything was fine for me. I ate this way. So what are you telling me now? But I say that no matter how long the rope twists, it will still come to an end. This kind of life sooner or later will come to an end. Therefore, if you want to be beautiful, if you want to be of sound mind, if you want to have a happy family life, because in family life, it's not enough to just be beautiful, attractive, or something else. In family life, above all, you need to be a person who is emotionally and psychologically resilient. In family life, you need to be able not to explode when tense situations arise in the family. In family life, you need to be able to stay calm, reasonable, sensible, affectionate, and capable of diffusing conflicts. But you will only be able to do this if you are well fed. You will never be able to do this if you are hungry. You will never be able to do this if you are physically exhausted. If you do not maintain a proper work and rest schedule, and if you go through some exhausting period, for example, childbirth and caring for a baby, then what matters is whether your body has the resources that have been accumulated during all the time before you became pregnant, gave birth after 9 months of a difficult pregnancy, and then spent several more months. You will be feeding this child, and you need to find the strength for that from somewhere. So, how did you live your life up to this point? To put it bluntly, first of all, did you eat well? Or were you on one of those diets? You know, the kind where you have 100 grams of cottage cheese casserole, a sandwich with boiled sausage, and tea with cookies in the evening? Well then, where is your body supposed to get the resources for such intense, exhausting, months-long work? Building up your body at your own expense? Excuse me, but that's not how it works. So, my dear friends, what am I trying to say with all this? This video. Before you start searching for some convoluted, unheard of, unknown, and extremely complicated reasons that supposedly led you to neurosis, psychosis, panic attacks, severe depression, or to the point where you can't get off psychoactive medications, please first and foremost inspect the most basic thing. That is your diet. Inspect it. And if it resembles the examples I read to you today, and you intend to keep following these so-called health-improving methods in such health-improving ways, what can I say? The people who promote this style of eating to you actually have the goal of destroying a person. How do they have the goal of destroying a person? The people in concentration camps who fed the prisoners according to almost the same diets also claimed that everything was being done for their benefit. But in reality, people were dying. In fact, the people who tell you to give up meat, the people who tell you that you should eat less, the people who tell you that a beautiful body is an emaciated one, with slanted eyes, skinny, just rattling bones. In reality, these people are your enemies. In reality, these people want you to feel bad about yourself. So please take a look at your life, inspect your diet, and stop eating the way people were fed in concentration camps. Just stop. If you want to be healthy and generally speaking, well, more or less, keep your mind intact and live to a respectable age. That's the first thing. Next, you need to look at your work and rest schedule. Because this kind of careless attitude, staying up all night on the internet, sleeping for 3 hours, and then going to work, nothing good will come of that either. Because your body also needs rest. That is to say, today, I want to encourage you to consider that before you start looking for some exotic causes of psychoses and neuroses, you should first do the basic things. First, you need to inspect your diet, and second, you need to inspect your work and rest schedule. I also want to separately answer the question from people who ask me whether one-day fasting is beneficial. How do they justify this? How do they explain it? They say the gastrointestinal tract needs to rest. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if we follow that logic, then we should fall into a coma for a day, because the brain also needs to rest. Or we need to come up with a way to turn off the heart for a while. It's tired too, after all. Or, I don't know, cut off your legs and let them stand in the corner, then somehow sew them back on since they're tired too. This is some kind of universal nonsense, guys. The body is made the way it is made. The body is designed to work every day. The gastrointestinal tract is set up to absorb nutrients every day so that respiratory cycles in the cells continue, so that metabolic processes run regularly without interruption as they should, with all the nutrients that are supposed to be present. Deficiencies, insufficiencies, and dietary errors that lead to vitamin deficiencies, hypovitaminosis, and other deficiency states, these are the very background, the cushion, the foundation on which physical and mental illnesses develop. That's all there is to it. In fact, at its core, everything is quite simple. So, if there are people watching me who have these kinds of reasons, these kinds of problems, then right now, after this video, take a piece of paper and write down what you eat. And see if you are eating often enough. Check if you are eating enough protein. There should be protein in every meal. Meat, first and foremost. Or animal liver, which is also very good. If you have no appetite, loss of appetite, lack of appetite. This can be a sign of several vitamin deficiencies. It's a sign of vitamin B1 deficiency, it's a sign of vitamin B3 deficiency. So please add to your diet, for example, 50 milligrams of nicotinic acid to help improve things this way. These things if you have such a deficiency. So start with the basics. If you can successfully resolve this straightforward yet absolutely fundamental problem, and if you do, you can truly take my word for it. According to statistics, in about 80 or even 90% of cases, or even almost 100%. If we don't count, well, some accidents like a brick falling on your head and cracking your skull. So if we're talking about the normal course of life, then in almost all cases, if a person eats well, if they don't have hypo or avitaminosis, if their diet is varied and meets absolutely all the needs of the body, then most likely that person will live a long life and remain of sound mind. That is what I wish for you. This was Sofya Dorinskaya with you. All the best. Goodbye.